The Carolina Panthers suffered some devastating injuries just within the first couple weeks of the season. Coach Reich discusses the urgency of the team, even though they're 0-3 currently, and what the heck is going on with the running game, and why did we pass so many times yesterday against the Seahawks. We got all that and more in this edition of Panthers News Today. We're starting right now. What up, though? It's Aaron Duncan here with the Necessary Bluntness Sports Talk recap and analysis of the Carolina Panthers. Is what I do here on this channel. So if you want to see more videos just like this, film breakdowns, podcasts, hit the subscribe button and the bell icon. That bell icon is going to make sure you are notified as soon as things drop, because a lot of stuff is going on with this Carolina Panthers team, man. So you got to stay on top of it. And one of the biggest things that you need to stay on top of is these injuries. So that's the first topic we are going to discuss. We were already beat up and we suffered a big loss defensively with one of the franchise cornerstones, it seems like. It's been around for a while now. Been through 3 regimes. Shaq Thompson fractured his fibula last week on Monday Night Football against the Saints with some friendly fire. For the most part, he's out for the season. But this Sunday, more key defensive starters took some blows. First of all, Frankie Louvu, who was the emotional probably leader of this defense and maybe even the team, suffered a hip pointer. Yes, he was ruled out of the game early on and could not finish the game. He was limping around the sideline, and when you know Frankie Lou was one of the toughest guys on the team, so if it sat him down, you know it has to be something that's fairly serious. Now, hip pointers, I've had one personally before in my life. I wasn't playing in the NFL when it happened. I was playing football, though. These are very painful. They're painful to sit on the toilet. They're painful to get up off the toilet. You know what I'm saying? It can hurt sometimes when you laugh. It can hurt sometimes when you twist a certain way. You know, a lot of it is pain management and protecting it. A lot of these guys in the NFL don't wear hip pads like that. So it's going to be about obviously getting the bruising down, getting the swelling down. It's not necessarily a ligament or a structural damage. It's just something that's a big bruise that's very, very painful, and it comes down to pain tolerance. Now, what is his outlook? Coach Frank Reich did not give any kind of prognosis on how long it took. But I know for me personally, when I had my mild one, it was just probably about a week or so until I got to the point where I could tolerate that. And obviously these guys in the NFL, they have all kind of painkillers, stuff that you take and stuff like that. I don't know what kind of stuff they're going to prescribe, but we'll see what the prognosis long-term for that. Also, C.J. Henderson, our starting corner, suffered an ankle injury defending a pass against DK Metcalf. He actually had a solid game going early on until that happened and things kind of changed. He was that bigger corner that's physical enough to match up with Metcalf, and his presence actually was missed. I mean, I know C.J. Henderson has taken his lumps. We've personally discussed on this channel his struggles and where we are with him, but I think he's the only bigger corner that we have that can match up with some of the guys like Metcalf, so his presence was definitely missed. No prognosis on his ankle either. We'll get more information on that Wednesday, but depending on the severity of the ankle, we will see. C.J. Henderson did hurt his ankle in training camp, was out a few days, but ended up coming back. So hopefully this is not, I haven't put it 2 and 2 together, got enough information to figure out if this is the same ankle or what. However, we do need to monitor that because our secondary is already thin with the injury to J.C. Horn. Another blow to the secondary was Xavier Woods. Xavier Woods suffered a hamstring injury. Now, is it as severe as JC's? I'm not sure. We don't know. I don't think so. Obviously, JC Horn had to get a procedure done, was put on IR. Hopefully, these type of soft tissue injuries can linger, so expect Xavier Woods to be out maybe 3 to 4 weeks if it's just a mild or whatever grade they say hamstring. But regardless, you have to factor in the possibility of re-aggravating, so you want to be careful when you have a type of hamstring injury. Sam Franklin III filled in for him, made some plays, also kind of went viral for getting trucked on the sideline, but it kind of happens as part of the game, you know what I'm saying? But I feel okay about Sam Franklin, but having all these starters in the secondary go down is not ideal, especially defensively, when that's been some of the only bright spots overall is their effort to get some stops and keep the Seahawks out of the end zone yesterday. So taking blows on the defense is just definitely not ideal, and it's really testing our depth. Like I said, we'll get more information this Wednesday from Frank Reich when they return to practice. But these injuries, man, they're starting to add up, and these are things that you cannot account for. These are why I tell you it's a week-to-week lead for every team. Injuries are something that can affect any team and derail any season. So it's just tough. Things were already a struggle for this team overall. So for one of our strong points being the linebacking core and the back safeties to take blows there, it's almost disheartening, man. I'm not gonna lie, it's very disheartening. However, we will get more information as it comes out. I will keep you guys updated. You guys let me know down below in the comments Which injury do you think will have the biggest effect? Obviously, Frankie Louvu is probably the best player, but with our depth in the secondary already being thin, do you think some of the other injuries may affect the team more? Let me know down below in the comments what you think. And next up, Carolina Panthers have started 0-3. This is the worst start in team history since 2010. Obviously, in 2010, that was a Jimmy Clausen era before we got Cam Newton, so we had something to look forward to, even though there was a draft there coming up. This year, I think there's some people that know we don't have that first-round pick. They're typically pro-tanking. They love tanking as soon as it seems that there's no chance of making the playoffs, and so they do not know what to do, so they're freaking out about everything. Regardless, this is a rough start for this team. Now, it's documented that we started 1-5 last year and still played for the opportunity to be a division winner in January, which was crazy enough to me. Crazier things have happened, but it's definitely discouraging when you look at the numbers showing that less than 3% of teams that start 0-3 make the playoffs. So I think it's really forced a lot of fans to temper their expectations. Now, why should they have to temper their expectations when we have a rookie quarterback? We turned over a lot of the roster. There's over 40 new players on this team. It's because I think a lot of it has to be pointed at the Carolina Panthers organization themselves. I mean, they did hype us up with a lot of the coaches coming in, and I was believed in that. I still think that's a good reason to be excited. They hyped us up on what they were building, the blueprint, the process that they were doing during the offseason. They weren't like Matt Rule where it says it's going to take 7 years. They didn't say that it was going to be X amount of years in this process. It seems to be there was some expectations of we got our quarterback, we're ready to compete, and that hasn't really been the case. Quarterback has only played 2 games, and now that he's facing some injuries and we're 0-3, it's like, okay, what realistically is the goal for this year? And can I partially be to blame of that? I probably can. I believe the hype. I have a platform as well, so I can't help but get excited. I'm still a fan at the end of the day, but however, at training camp, I tried to give the most transparent outlook of what I actually saw, because all that stuff on paper, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid there. But what I saw in training camp is what I saw, and I tried to give as much transparency as possible and talk about some of the struggles with the offensive line on the interior in particular, and just how the offense did not answer on days where there was physicality from the defense in full pads. So I tried to actually give some expectations there, but I can say I've fallen short and drank the Kool-Aid myself, and I think as a fan base, we're drunk off that Kool-Aid. Now, this is the hangover of it. When you're drinking and getting all drunk and having a good time the night before, and then once reality strikes in, the next day is sunglasses and Advil. And I think we are going through a hangover currently of our expectations not being met by what we thought was going to be happening. It is a week-to-week league. You guys know me on this channel. I'm going to keep it realistic. Things change all the time. I think the Falcons are a bit overrated. We saw them come down to earth a little bit with Desmond Ridder. We also seen that Derek Carr has a shoulder injury. And now Jameis Winston is leading the pack. So things can change in a drop of a hat. This division is always wacky. Last year, don't forget last year whatsoever. So I still think there's things to figure out. I still think this team is figuring out their identity anyway. So there's going to be some growing pains. And like I always say before, there's going to be some losses while we're figuring things out. And there's probably going to be some wins as well. I wouldn't be surprised. The team will probably surprise you when you least expect it. So there's still a figuring out process. We have a ways to go, but not an ideal start and not great to be in the position of 0-3. But last but not least, we have to talk about what went on as far as the game plan and the lack of running game and why we threw the ball so many times. Andy Dalton threw the ball 58 times with the third highest in franchise history. Third highest in franchise history in terms of passing attempts, which is crazy because, yes, Andy Dalton is a veteran quarterback and he played well, but I think that's not a recipe for success. You have a defense that was competing. They were bending but not breaking all game. You kind of need a running game to control the clock, control the line of scrimmage, control the tempo of the game, take the defense off the field to the point that it can be fresh and rested, and we just didn't have it. And it's just amazing because we ran for 150 yards in week 1 against the Falcons, but we turn around and do nothing against the Saints. And nothing again this week. 14 carries for 44 yards. No semblance of a running game. We brought in Miles Sanders to be the lead back, but it feels like the success we had in week 1 with the Falcons was mixing in Chuba Hubbard. Chuba Hubbard's not flashy. He's not going to be mistaken for Christian McCaffrey, but he's a no-nonsense north-south runner is a good change-up, a good change of pace. And sometimes that helps. Miles Sanders tends to dance some. He may bounce ever so often. And if things aren't pretty, it's not going to be pretty for him as well. Like I said, Chuba Hubbard is going to just get what's there and take it. He's not going to be greedy. He's not going to try to hit a home run. He's not going to try to dance and go Reggie Bush. He's just going to hit it north-south. So I think adding a little bit more diversity there, incorporating Laviska Shenault is something that we were missing that's compared to the Falcons game. I still think just overall there's a lot of meat left on the bones for this offense that we're not taking advantage of. Regardless, throwing the ball 58 times is not bode well. However, some of the remarks that I heard from Frank Reich and Andy Dalton actually kind of opened my eyes and made me understand it. Obviously, game flow matters. And some people may say it was a one-possession game for most of the game. That is correct. But Frank Reich pointed out today that 40 of the 75 plays that we ran in that second half were us down 2 possessions. Now, I still never felt like we were completely out of it because, like I said, they didn't score their first touchdown of the game until that third quarter when we turned the ball over after that missed field goal and they got it on the 45-yard line. So the running game still could be there. However, I understand with all the penalties we had, the simple mental errors, the 8 false starts, that puts you in long down and distance. I counted. We were behind the sticks 12 out of those 75 plays. Behind the sticks means that it was more than 10 yards to go. As in, we start 1st and 10. It wasn't 1st and 10. It wasn't 2nd and 10. It wasn't 3rd and 10. It was 1st and 5, 1st and 20, 2nd and 5, 2nd and 20 because of false starts, because of holding, because of simple mental errors. And when your running game is only getting about 3 yards per carry, it doesn't make sense to try to run your way out of being in 1st and 20. It just doesn't make sense, especially when Andy Dalton seemed to be spreading the ball around, playing fairly well. So I understand the game flow there, but I still think there's no excuse not to be stubborn with the running game early on and try to get more creative and more diverse with your other guys like Chuba and Laviska Shenault. We have weapons that have shown they can get some yards when they get their opportunities. You just have to give them opportunities. And we just didn't really give anybody opportunities because 14 carries is not a recipe for success. And I think a lot of fans are left wondering because we came into Seattle last year, ran the ball all over them, controlled the line of scrimmage, only passed for 143 yards and still put it on them in their own house. And it just seems like this is a complete opposite. We didn't run the ball. We didn't establish the line of scrimmage. We gave up a lot of run yards. The defense played tough at times, forced 1 turnover just like last year. But it just didn't seem like the running game was there because the running game is going to protect the offensive line from struggling because it gives less opportunities for us to pass. Run, like I said before, offensive linemen don't like to pass block. They prefer to run block, blow off the ball, and push guys around. So when you have that in your arsenal, it gives them motivation to want to pass block, and it gives them confidence with pass blocking. But if you're dropping back 58 times per game with an offensive line that's young, has some leaks on the interior as well, it's not going to be pretty. We gave up a lot of pressures. I think I read that they gave up 30 pressures, which is ridiculous. Chandler Zavala gave up 14 himself. That's just completely unacceptable, and it's not a recipe for success. You have to sit down and look at what you have on this roster, see what they do well, try to find some things that they do well and lean on it. Not to make a comparison to Steve Wilkes, but that's exactly what he did. He realized that passing blocking wasn't our specialty, but we decided to lean on that running game and use play action. That's going to make it easier to pass protect. And so it's going to take some soul searching from Frank Reich. I know a lot of fans want him to give up play calling. I don't see it happening anytime before the bye week, and I don't think it's going to happen then. You know what I'm saying, personally. But we shall see. I could be wrong. I have been before, but something has to give. We have to shake something up offensively and get things going because 0-3 is not a good place to be. Regardless, there's still meat left on the bones, like I said, in my opinion, to do better. Better days are ahead, guys. You guys let me know down below in the comments how you felt about them throwing for 58 attempts in that game. If my explanation of some of the stats and Frank Reich's explanation with the penalties and the game flow of us being down 2 possessions actually makes sense to you. Let me know down below in the comments. But without further ado, I'm signing off. I'll see you next time. Peace.